Hi folks, welcome to RJA Impact. Today we're going to be talking about the indictments in the Holmes Balwani Theranos trial. You can search this channel to find week by week updates and also for a more detailed video on the background to Theranos and Holmes' journey to the point at which this trial commenced. In the week to week reminders, I mentioned that Elizabeth Holmes is in court accused of multiple instances of fraud against doctors, patients and investors in connection with her role as CEO of Theranos. This video is a deeper summary of the actual charges raised. Well, there's nothing like seeing the actual document to aid understanding, so we'll highlight sections directly as we dissect it. This is the cover page of the indictment. From this we can see that the indictment is being brought by the US District Court of Northern California and specifically the San Jose Division, and it's a joint indictment naming both Elizabeth A. Holmes and Ramesh Sunny Balwani. Originally they were going to be jointly tried, but because part of Holmes' defence is going to be alleged physical and or psychological coercement by Balwani against Holmes, they are now going to be tried separately, with Balwani's trial scheduled for January 2022. We can see that there are 11 counts, and counts is just the term for the actual charges being brought. The first two relate to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, number 1 against investment and number 2 against doctors and patients, and counts 3 to 11 inclusive relate to wire fraud. Also noted are the actual codes or the actual law that is being alleged was broken. It is a bit dry, but let's give it a go. 18. US Code 1343. Fraud by wire, radio or television. Whoever, having devised or intending to devise any scheme or artifice to defraud or for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretences, representations or promises, transmits or causes to be transmitted by means of wire, radio or television communication in interstate or foreign commerce any writings, signs, signals, pictures or sounds for the purposes of executing such scheme or artifice shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. 18. US Code 1349. Attempt and conspiracy. Any person who attempts or conspires to commit any offence under this chapter shall be subject to the same penalties as those prescribed for the offence, the commission of which was the object of the attempt or conspiracy. Perhaps a more knowledgeable person on this section of law or this area of law could comment on what the actual potential fines could be for this breach of code and what would guide the judge in this particular case. Personally, I would guess if Holmes and or Balwani are found guilty, then any fines are going to be significant and definitely material to them. Following the cover page, there are 28 sections detailing the allegations which range over 10 pages. Here is the start of those sections. And note here there is an additional code mentioned, 2461C, forfeiture. After the detailed allegations there is a section on forfeiture and we'll come to that in due course. So let's have a look at the allegations. Introduction, paragraphs 1 to 3. These merely introduce Elizabeth Holmes and Ramesh Sunny Balwani respectively as the CEO and COO of Theranos and also Theranos itself, which is incorporated in Delaware. The business of Theranos. This section runs through the business of Theranos. It talks about the first 10 years from 2003 to 2013 being called stealth mode by Holmes. This was when Theranos under Holmes developed its ubiquitous nanotainer and its analyzers called, amongst other things, the TSPU, the Theranos Sample Processing Unit, the Edison and the Minilab. It continues by saying that from 2013 Theranos began to publicise its technological advances for blood testing, including enhanced accuracy with lower time to complete analysis and its method of collecting blood via a finger prick, as well as cost savings. It mentions press releases on these subjects and an interview Holmes gave to the Wall Street Journal saying that Theranos could run any combination of tests, including sets of follow-on tests at once, very quickly, and all from a single small blood sample. Theranos website made similar claims. Theranos partnership with Walgreens. Through the partnership with the national pharmacy chain, Theranos announced in September 2013 that it would roll out its wellness centres inside the retailer's locations, and in a press release said, consumers can now complete any clinician-directed lab test with as little as a few drops of blood and results available in a matter of hours. The scheme to defraud investors. Here the government are saying that Holmes and Balwani engaged in a scheme, plan and artifice to defraud investors, and this was during the period 2013 to 2015. It says that they made materially false and misleading statements to investors, including written and oral communications, marketing materials, financial statements and financial models, etc. It says that they did this knowing that the Theranos devices had accuracy and reliability problems and only performed a limited number of tests. Theranos claimed that they would generate $100 million of income in 2014 and up to $1 billion of income in 2015. They ran demonstration tests of the machine with investors, but that, unbeknownst to the investors, the machines were just running a null protocol. In other words, that means the machines were doing nothing. They said that they had contracts with the military and devices were in the battlefield when they were not. They said that they had conducted tests on Theranos machines when they actually ran some tests on third-party machines. They said that their technology had been validated by several large pharmaceutical companies when it hadn't. After these statements, investors transferred via wire transfers monies for the purpose of investing in Theranos. The scheme to defraud doctors and patients. The indictment here says that Holmes and Balwani enticed doctors and patients to use Theranos testing services, making similar claims as they did to the investors, whilst they knew their devices were not capable of consistently producing accurate and reliable results. A number of the different blood tests are listed in this section. Holmes and Balwani used interstate electronic wires to advertise in California and Arizona and made claims when they knew that the tests were likely to have inaccurate and unreliable results, improperly adjusted reference ranges, improperly removed critical results, and results that were generated from improperly validated assays. Paragraphs 9 through 24 effectively cross-reference the above paragraphs relating to investors against counts 3 to 8. Paragraph 24 itself is quite interesting as it lists some actual wire transfers or payments into Theranos home bank accounts. We've extracted it here, and it is interesting that the investors are just named 1 to 5 rather than their real identity. But just look at some of the values. Yes, that's pretty much a 100 million investment right there against count 7. Paragraph 25 again cross-references and relates to patients in counts 9 to 11. Paragraph 26 is interesting and has a similar table showing an amount paid for advertising Theranos wellness centres sent cross-state and examples of cross-state transfers of patients' blood results. Forfeiture. Remember the forfeiture section 2461? Well, the indictment points out under the US Code what Holmes and Balwani could forfeit if found guilty. Essentially, this amounts to all proceeds received that can be traced to the offences. Also, if Holmes and or Balwani had tried to dispose of the proceeds, for example by gift or trying to place the proceeds beyond the jurisdiction of the court, for example to another country, then they would still be liable. This section actually raises a couple of questions for me, which perhaps a more knowledgeable person could comment on. Firstly, what about the wages that Holmes and Balwani had been paid over the 10 to 15 years involved with the company? Surely those wages came from the proceeds of the alleged crime. And secondly, we know that the company pretty much spent all of the money it received from investors. Presumably Holmes and Balwani would be responsible for that as well, even though that money has actually been spent and is really long gone. The final couple of pages of the indictment are pretty much administrative. And just to note, stamped on every page is the date filed, 14th of June 2018, and yes, it's been a long time since the indictment to the point at which the trial commenced. A couple of reasons for that. Holmes has had a baby in the intervening period, and obviously we've had the COVID pandemic, which has caused a slowdown in a lot of administrative functions across the world. We can also see that the indictment was originally sealed by order of the court, but that restriction has since been lifted and hence that stamp is crossed out. Well, that's a rundown of the indictments. I hope you find it somewhat illuminating. It does actually help to understand the prosecution's witness choice and the line of questioning that they are undertaking, so that in itself is of importance as we look at the witness testimony. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any future video releases.